ya. Ada aksen kiri. Emang kan bahasa Inggris itu kan.
Okay. SBVE Talk is a discussion platform. Of course, the main objective of this event is to be a knowledge sharing platform for you all. But since I also told you earlier that the topic for this event is becoming effective leader. So specifically for this event, the objective is to be a knowledge sharing platform on how to become an effective leader. And the derivative objective for this event is also to inspire you all as the participants to be a great leaders as the speakers. And the third one is also to be a networking platform for our speakers, audience, and also partners. In this case, media partners and also our co-hosts. So later, we will provide you a space for you to have a chit chat if you would like to meet someone, or if you would like to ask the out of topic questions to the speakers later, we will provide you a space as well. Okay, so that's the objective of the event. So what's our agenda? Go to the next slide, please. So here are basically our agendas for this event. We have 4 agendas in total. The first one is introduction. And the second one is the main event, which is the discussion with our panelists. And the third one is the closing answer phase. But we have some twist for today's BVE talk because we have provided a quiz for all of the participants can join and also win the exceptional prizes. So please be patient and wait until and also listen to what the speaker said, so you can later do the quiz proficiently. Okay, and after that there will be a post-event huddle session, which I also have mentioned earlier, that you can have a chit chat with your friends, if you would like to make new friends to the speakers, and everyone is basically who joins in this BVE talk session. Okay, next. Without any further ado, I guess let's jump into our first agenda, which is the introduction. So in this introduction, I would like to introduce you to our hosts for this event, our co-hosts, our moderators, and also speakers. Next slide. Okay, so here are the hosts for the BVE Talk 20. I would like to call your names for our host today, to also recognize your work for this amazing event. You already know me. I'm your host for today's event, but also I am the project manager of this BVE Talk 20. And secondly, I would like to call Adil Ananda. Hello, Adil.
Hello.
Okay, everyone, if you haven't noticed, Adil is actually our email marketer. So for you, especially the participants who receive the confirmation email and reminder email to keep you reminded about this event. So that's Adil's work, Adil's amazing work. And also he did some work on the social media posts. So if you are coming or knowing this event from social media, that's also Adil's works. And also the second one, I would like to call Shelin. Hello, Shelin.
Hello, Furkan. Hello, everyone.
Okay, hello. So basically, Shelin here is our liaison officer. Unlike Adil is working on the participant side, Shelin is working on the partner side. So I believe if you are a part of our co-host or our media partner for this event, I believe you you are very much aware of her existence. Okay, and the next committee is Ola Kinanti. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here today because she had an event at her university. So that's quite a shame. But if you look at these beautiful presentations that you see, and also the beautiful posters that we have, it's basically all of her work doing as the design specialist. Okay, that's for our host for this event. Next slide, please. Now, I would like to recognize our co-hosts who have gathered these many registrants as also participants to come to this BVE talk. The first one is from Ilmu Komputer Universitas Negeri Semarang. I believe Pak Alamsyah as the head of the department is already there. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Halo Pak Alamsyah.
Yes, nice to meet you, Pak Furqan. I'm sorry because time is asal fail.
Okay. Okay, that's very fun, Pak Alamsyah. But thank you very much, Pak Alamsyah, for your contribution to this event to bring so many participants coming into this event. And also, we have another co-host from Universitas Pertamina. Is there any representative coming from Universitas Pertamina? No? Okay, that's fine. We can proceed to Universitas Gadjah Mada, program studi S1 Pariwisata, Fakultas Ilmu Budaya. Hello, is there any representative coming?
Hello, Mas Furqan. Hello, everyone.
Halo Bu Zida.
Halo.
Ketemu lagi ya kita ya Bu ya.
Yes. Halo Pak Jing. Salam from Ibu.
Hey, hello, apa kabar?
Okay, Ms. Zida, thank you very much for your help and also contribution to distribute this event, and also as your students to come to this event. So we have, as you can see, 300 participants as of now.
Yes, my pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, and next I would like to call the representative of Business Perjalanan Wisata Universitas Gadjah Mada. Hello. Okay, I believe the representative has not come yet, so we can skip further. But thank you very much to Universitas Pertamina and also Universitas Gadjah Mada Bisnis Perjalanan Wisata to also support our event. And the last co-host that is actually quite like we have a close engagement with him is from Sekolah Bisnis Manajemen of Institut Teknologi Bandung, and I believe the representative is here today. Halo Pak Agus. Halo, I believe Pak Agus is I believe Pak Agus is here, but I think there is some kind of issue in his end. So yeah, thank you very much, Pak Agus, for supporting our event again before previously joining as our co-host in BVE Talk 19. If you are curious about these organizations, we also have provided the pretty detailed information on our website. So please go to our website BVE Talk page to look further of these co-hosts or organizations. Okay, Adil, next slide, please. And therefore, I would like to also thank you very much for all these many media partners that have also helped to distribute and spread awareness about our event. The first one, I would like to call the representative of PSB Academy from Singapore. Oh, no one? Okay, but thank you very much.
Hi, yes. Oh, sorry.
Oh, Ms. Kartika,
Yes,
you're
I'm
here.
here. Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, it's pretty clear. Thank you very much, Ms. Kartika, for your help in distributing the awareness to your community in PSB Academy.
Yeah, we're really happy to be able to take part in this talk, and yeah, all the best. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Looking
thank you
forward
very
for this talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And also we have the representatives Departemen Informatika Universitas Pelita Harapan? No? Okay. Thank you. That's okay. Thank you very much for Departemen Informatika UPH to also distribute our event. And next to Binus University. Okay. And also we also have we would like to thank Karisantara Universitas Pelita Harapan, CDC Visipol Universitas Gajah Mada, CDC Prasetya Mulia, CDC Presiden University, CDC Fakultas Ekonomi Universitas Negeri Jakarta, Center for Digital Society UGM, PPK Unpad, and also Stay ITB for also supporting our event by distributing the information to the communities. Okay, without any further ado, this quite take a long time. I think we need to go to our main event for the speaker's introduction. Okay, but before introducing the speaker, I would like to call our Chief Executive Officer who will moderate this event. Hello, Mr. Jing Choyang.
Hello, Furqan. How's it going?
It's going great. And also thank you very much, Mr. Jing Choyang, for all participants here. Mr. Jing Choyang is actually currently in California. So it's basically like literally midnight there. So thank you very much, Mr. Jing, for your willingness to still moderate this event with around 300 participants.
Of course. I wouldn't have it any other way, Furqan. So thank you for the intro. Okay, who's excited to be here at eTalk 20? Yeah, I'm so delighted to see so many people come in today on a Saturday to a webinar. I mean, we've had so many webinars during COVID. I mean, who wants to go another webinar? But hopefully this next few hours of time with our very illustrious speakers who have also chosen to spend their Saturdays speaking at the eTalk will be inspirational. Right? I want to give a big thanks and shout out to all the participants that have decided to come in on the first day of April. I promise this is a real eTalk, right? April 1st is sometimes April Fool's Day. So maybe I'll just say, no, we're canceling the event and, you know, we can all go home now. But no, it won't be like that. That would be very disappointing, right? So we're actually having this eTalk on April 1st. But I hope this doesn't get anybody into this idea of work-life balance, right? Why do I have to come to work on Saturdays, right? But okay, anyways, without getting into too much about anything, I'm very proud to be the host, and I'm also very happy to actually receive feedback from all the audience, and hopefully some of you have been coming over from the past eTalks. We took your advice from the last surveys that you gave, and we made the introduction period much shorter so that we could get to the heart of each eTalk, okay? So let me go ahead and introduce each of our illustrious speakers here today. We have people representing leadership positions at senior levels from all different industries, from all different types of specialties and skills, all different kinds of backgrounds. So we hope that this will be an inspirational and a delightful event for a wide audience of students who are coming from different backgrounds too. And thank you for supporting the event. Okay, Adil, bring us to the next slide to introduce our first speaker. All right, our first speaker is Mr. Saudi. Mr. Saudi, are you there, sir?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, Saudi.
All right,
here.
Mr. Saudi, this is your turn, and you will be starting us off. Please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about what you do and your background, please.
Yeah, so in short, basically, I'm from all my whole career from hospitality. So moving from different brand to like one brand to another brand. And I'm currently as the country lead for Thailand for human resources and working for IHG Hotel and Resort, which is I'm sure that IHG Hotel and Resort also exists in Indonesia for sure. And lots of them are in Bali, in all the major provinces. So
Excellent.
Nice meeting you all.
Thank you, Mr. Saudi. And by your presence here, you have made this now an international event. So thank you, Mr. Saudi, representing hospitality and many different hospitality brands, and also with the skill of human resources. Okay, thank you. Next, Adil, let's bring us to the next speaker that we have, which will be Ms. Dio. Ms. Dio, are you there?
Hi everyone, good day, happy weekend everyone. My name is Dio. I'm currently building my own business. I can say it's a startup per se. I also study in UI, but most of the so previous role that I have. As a typical millennials, I like to explore. So I've been working for multinational company, development bank, hospitality, other startups, things like that. And now this is actually my 6 years working. So I think compared to other speakers, probably I'm like the youngest in terms of the years of experience. So yeah, nice to meet you all.
All right, Ms. Dio, thank you for the brilliant introduction. It's really good speaking with somebody with actually, UI is overrepresented today, I think. There's going to be a lot.
Yeah.
But also to see that entrepreneurial energy, and I'm happy that you also have an HR background. So I'll be asking you and Mr. Saudi common questions about leadership from that particular direction. Yeah, cool. And I think it's great that we represent like different industries, you know, and different generations. Millennial, Mr. Saudi is probably Gen Z, right?
And you're right.
And so that will be an interesting contrast to see the, you know, how different generations see also leadership. Welcome, Ms. Dio, for the eTalk 20. Next, let's go to our next speaker, Adil, and see who that might be. It's none less than Mr. Imam. Mr. Imam, please come forward. Hello, Mr. Imam. Good to see you.
Hello, everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell us who you are.
Yeah, thank you, Jing. So yeah, hello everyone. My name is Imam. You just can call me Imam. I'm really thrilled to be here today. I was studied in University of Glasgow, but back then I am actually taking my bachelor degree in ITB. So if you guys coming from ITB, hi, I'm also one of your alumni. At the moment, sure, it is. I work as a VP of engineering at the moment in EV3. At the moment, I'm also working from Bandung. So if you guys are in Bandung, you can feel free to just contact me and we can discuss about something about engineering or any other things. For sure, I'm really excited to be here today. It's really great opportunity to meet you all. Let's discuss. Thank you, Jing.
And I'm really happy to actually have a fellow person who, Mr. Imam, you're also making this international event by bringing in University of Glasgow, representing Glasgow's in Scotland, right?
Sure. It is Glasgow in Scotland. It's very cold city.
And actually, and this, your background is actually very, very interesting. So you are an engineering background, but you work in agriculture and aquaculture, actually, to make shrimp, fish, and other things that swim and we eat, right?
Sure. It is. Yeah, it's quite fun actually. I mean, like, I'm actually an electrical engineer, and then my master is in information technology. And we do find a lot of interesting stuff in EV3 where we need to combine a lot of stuff like hardware and software and become an IoT stuff. And yeah, that's right. It's not that complex, but actually our technology can solve some problem for the farmers at the field.
Oh my goodness, that is so amazing, because I happen to actually have the same background. I studied electrical engineering as well. And so, okay, I promise we won't nerd out with Mr. Imam and talk about circuits and grounding and resistors and capacitors, all that. But Mr. Imam, welcome. Thank you for also bringing some, you're the first technical person and also working on your own startup. So this is also very fascinating, coming from a different aspect of leadership. Welcome, Mr. Imam.
Sure.
Okay,
thank you.
Next, let's go to our next speaker, who is, oh, that was a funny break. Okay, Mr. Brian. Mr. Brian, or have you arrived, Mr. Brian?
Yep.
Mr. Brian. There you are. You made it. Okay, Mr. Brian. Good to see you.
Good to see you,
welcome, Mr. Brian. Tell us about your life, Mr. Brian.
Yeah, I'm currently, I had just joined PASAC as Director of Products. Previously, I worked in Alami Hijrah, Syariah Bank, and previously in Tokopedia. And earlier on in my career, around 10 years or so, I am doing my own startups, which failed spectacularly, leaving many debts. So I've paid all of those debts, and I found that I now enjoy working for other people more than working for my own company.
Okay, that's good. That's good. That's quite a journey of risk and recovery. Yeah. And Mr. Brian, I happen to notice on your LinkedIn you publish regularly thoughts about leadership and about like the dynamics around how companies and their employees work together. Is that correct?
Yep. I write.
Okay.
I try to write regularly, so to push myself to structure my thoughts in writing.
Excellent.
And help other people.
Excellent. I'm sure Mr. Imam would agree that, or maybe not agree, that writing from a person with an engineering background can be kind of like a scary thing to do, right? Sometimes we're more comfortable with numbers. But okay, Mr. Brian, well, that's very fascinating. I think getting your thoughts out in public is a very strong aspect of leadership.
By the
Okay,
way,
next.
if we have a wrong title there, because I had never graduated from my Bachelor of Industrial Engineering, so I'm a dropout.
Oh wow, you are so transparent. Okay. No fear of shame. Okay, fantastic. I like that. I like that. We have a core value here at Bukit Vista that says to be transparent, and you are being transparent in front of 376 people. So that is very remarkable. Okay, all right, Furqan, we'll get that detail right now on that one. Thank you, Mr. Brian, for coming in. And also, you can trust Mr. Brian. He's willing to tell us the truth today. So hopefully all of the participants will get some real knowledge here. Okay, Mr. Adil, let's go to our next speaker and bring them in too. Miss Melissa. Miss Melissa, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
There you are.
I'm
Okay,
here.
I see you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jing. Thank you, Bukit Vista team, for having me. Thank you guys for being here. As you can see, I'm fellow Binusian, so hello to every Binus graduates there. Nice to meet you. So for the last 16 years, I've been working in DHL Express Indonesia. And the first 11 years was actually in the commercial department. Before and afterwards, I decided to jump ship and go to HR instead. So excited to share with you about the topic today. And last but not least, if you want to ship internationally, don't forget to use DHL Express Indonesia. I'm just saying, I'm just doing my job as an employee. So
absolutely. Yeah. So if you want to ship me a thank you gift for moderating, you can send it to California through DHL, and it will make it here hopefully on time for me to open on next Monday. No, by no means. We'll probably be giving you guys gifts actually as a way of saying thank you to the speakers today. Ms. Melissa, you're going to be representing a very rare, maybe unpopular opinion by staying in one job for 16 years. That's something that is remarkable, in fact, and I actually highly appreciate it. I'm going to get you, Mr. Brian, to debate about loyalty to a particular company. I'm sure that's going to be a fun topic, right? Okay, Ms. Melissa, thank you for joining us, as also in common with our first two speakers, also representing HR and understanding about some of the aspects of leadership selection and leadership development. Okay, let's see. Do we have any more speakers, Adil, or have we covered everybody? And of course, we have Iqbal. All right, Mr. Iqbal, coming up from Bukit Vista. Mr. Iqbal, please take the floor and introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Jing. I'm trying to absorb your super pump energy.
That's all.
Yeah, so a good day, everyone. My name is Iqbal. I am a VP of Brand Communication at Bukit Vista. I was graduated on biology, actually, but then falling into marketing. So I was joining Bukit Vista when we were just 4, which is 8 years ago, and now we were about 300 people all around Indonesia, and also Brian was also one of our alumni. So hopefully I can get a lot of interesting discussion this afternoon.
I am sure we will, actually. Mr. Iqbal, you are a man of many coincidences. So Mr. Iqbal knows Brian, and Mr. Iqbal was also somehow related to our host today, Mohammed, through sharing the same boarding school. Okay, fantastic. Mr. Iqbal, thank you for joining us from Bukit Vista. And you said you were there when there was just 4 people?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
So that's very early days. Very early days. Okay. So, all right. I think actually, let me just double check. Adil, do we have any more speakers? Or I hope I didn't forget anyone. That seemed like right. Okay, great. Okay, so we covered all our speakers today. And if you're coming here as an audience today, please do this, okay? Please participate. It's very, very rare to have so many different people from all different walks of life and many different industries to be together in one place. And I think, this reminds me of a very famous quote: when the student is ready, the teacher appears, right? So your teachers are here in the room. So how do we actually get more out of this event is if you participate, if you ask questions, and if you engage as actively as possible. We have a few ways that you can do that. So the most common way, if you want to ask questions, is we will share a Slido, and you can enter your questions in through that platform. And that way we'll be able to conduct Q&A after each particular term, right? The other way that you can engage is to say, Jing, those are terrible questions. You should be asking the speaker this. Turn on your mic and tell me that, and give me an opportunity to become a better moderator, because I sometimes don't know what I'm doing. So you can feel free to correct me, because I'm also a work in progress. The third way to engage is, of course, at the end of everything, we have a huddle. So this is a online webinar, but if you go to offline events, there's that part where the speakers, they try to leave the room, and then all the curious people come up and say, I have a question for you. I have a question I wanted to ask you. Well, we don't really do that kind of, anymore, because this is online, but we try to replicate it. So that's what the huddle is afterwards, okay? I'm going to work with Shaylin and Furqan to see if we can create breakout rooms after. So if you don't want to talk to me, but you just want to talk to like Brian or Iqbal or Melissa or somebody else, you can have that option. So you don't have to talk to me if you don't want to, but you can always engage with one of our speakers. And hopefully our speakers don't have a train to catch or any other, important engagements like they usually say, and we can actually get a few minutes to have a one-on-one time with them. Okay, so once again, if you want to get more out of this, then please engage, or if you want to just sit back and watch, then just listen carefully, I guess, and that should be good too. Okay, Mr. Adil, let's go ahead and bring us to the next slide. Okay, so we're going to have a moderated discussion, and as promised, this is the Slido link. So if you want to take your handphone out and scan, then you can start getting engaged. If you want to just use our link that we provide in the chat right now, you can also do that too, okay? So the code is 5787696 for Slido, and please engage so that we can have a more amazing e-talk, number 20. Okay, next slide, please, Adil. All right, so let's get into the kind of the heart of it, right? So the big topic here is, who is an effective leader? What makes an effective leader, okay? Since we have a lot of people in HR, maybe we'll kind of just kind of go down that particular pathway for right now, right? And see where we are. Let's start with Melissa, okay? Melissa, you have had 16 years of experience at DHL, one place. You've seen people probably come and go. You've seen people get promoted. You might have seen people get demoted. What has been some of the things that you've seen that you'd like to share with our young audience, our college age audience, about what do you see as people who actually become leaders, either from your own experience, people that you've hired, people that you've had to let go? What are the attributes that you think are common amongst people who are calling themselves leaders?
Well, in traditional organization, leader is usually associated with a certain role. Normally, when you reach to a point whereby you are a supervisor or you are a manager, normally you have team reporting to you, and that usually automatically makes you a leader. But actually, a leader is so much more than just a role that is assigned to you or assigned in the organization. A leader is actually someone that can influence, someone that can actually inspire. So it's not just about a certain role. So of course you can be a leader if you are appointed to that role, of course, but everybody is a leader for themselves. So all of us, we have our own responsibility to be to lead ourselves. Now, with regards to the people coming and going in the organization, it actually comes to a lot of factors. But I would say generally a good leader would balance between respect and result. So how can you actually drive result without compromising respect? That is actually one of the things, one of the core values that we at DHL believes in. And we have specific training for that. So other than that, I would say that being a leader is not something that you are born with. It's actually something that you can learn from. And it's actually something that you can sharpen day by day. So don't worry if you feel like, I don't think I'm a good leader right now, because it's a process actually. So I think, Jing, probably that's my 2 cents. Over to you.
Excellent. Okay, so what I got from that is that leadership is, a lot of people are assigned into a leadership role, but that doesn't really make them a leader. What makes them a leader is understanding this balance between respect and getting results. And that even if you're not a leader today, it is something that essentially you can learn and develop into given enough experience. Yeah. Okay, let's jump over to somebody else from HR too. Let's go to Mr. Saudi. Looking at it from also, let's say, coming in from a traditional industry in hospitality and also coming from Thailand, what do you think about what has been said so far by Melissa? How much of that do you agree with? How much new information would you like to add? What is it that your understanding of what leadership looks like? And it, once again, can be from your own experience, either in your own career track or what you've seen in terms of hiring and also developing employees, and maybe even the people that you let go in IHG and other hospitality organizations.
Well, I won't start with the letting go people. I mean, that quite tough one. I mean, but it is good.
That is a tough one. That's why we're here.
It is good that we have all the young audience over here, right? And then I couldn't agree more with Melissa that it is not just a role. It is something that you put into action. Every single time that I goes to the university, I always mention to the university that leadership is not just a role. It's not just the job title where you are in the, because I have seen so many people who graduate and then they immediately apply for a job as a supervisor, as the manager or whatever, right? This is to be honest, right? So I said, so what if you fall into a challenge? How are you going?
Okay, I think we might have lost Mr. Saudi. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So let's go ahead and do this. So Mr. Saudi. Oh, Mr. Saudi, you're back.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. All right. Please continue. There was a few moments where the audio skipped out, but you were saying that leadership is not a role. It's people immediately apply as a supervisor. And let's continue from there.
Yeah. Okay. So I have seen like lots of people apply for supervisor or manager position, right? Kind of. So, but I said to them that, okay, so what if you face a challenge? What if you face a problem in the organization? How are you going to fix it? How are you going to address it, right? So it is not something you have to learn from the books only that can help you to fix, but it is somehow require experience, but not purely experience, of course. It is from your brain as well that you have to think thoroughly on a single situation that happens. So I would say, I would say a very good leadership is somebody who able to manage the task, who manage the people, who manage the partner, manage the supervisor, manage the situation. So they have to manage everything, right? And that this person should be somebody that able to make decision, especially in a very crisis time, right? So you know that you're gonna lose something. You know that you're gonna fail on something. You know that people would disappoint you, people will upset at you. But in that situation, you need to know what is the best situation that you are going to place on them, right?
Understood.
That's what I say now.
Okay, so it sounds like what we believe here is similar to what Melissa said. So leadership isn't just a role or a title. It's about being decisive and understanding the priorities of what needs to actually get done. And this seems to be something that we can develop through experience and really doing the role and understanding the relationships between people, tasks, and all these different aspects. And then being able to actually commit to that idea and being able to commit to generate results that people are looking for. Would you say that that's a good summary of some of the topics or some of the points that you just made?
Yeah, I think, but you know, I oftenly say that, okay, being a leader is also an artist as well, right? You're gonna know, right? You're gonna know sometimes going to tailor the situation into that will lead to the result effectively as well. So somehow, managing 100 people like myself, I have almost 10,000 people below me. So it is not easy. Yeah, around the whole Thailand. The whole Thailand.
That is amazing. 10,000 people. Wow. Okay, that probably makes you one of the largest groups of people responsible. Okay, incredible. 10,000.
So you cannot spend the whole day on one person. So you're gonna be charged. You're gonna think very carefully and quickly make decision. It may be you know, disappoint or maybe yourself can be upset about yourself as well, but it is something that you're going to know that you got to take it.
Got it. Got it. You touch upon a very interesting subject also, Mr. Saudi. It seems like a lot of more senior leadership is about how you actually manage your own mental state, right? Like about how do you manage the confusion, the complexity, and your own mistakes through the leadership process too as well. Okay. Thank you for sharing that, Mr. Saudi, and also coming from hospitality and also shipping. So we've examined kind of like the viewpoint in traditional industry. Let's take a leap and go over to the startup and the tech side where things might have a different pace. Let me bring Mr. Iqbal in. Mr. Iqbal, the general sort of notion in traditional industry is that a person needs to accumulate experience, that depth, and you know, to be able to move ahead and actually gain a leadership position. But sometimes when we're working in startups, we don't have that luxury, right? We need to form leadership within a few months. We need to ship a product that has high degrees of uncertainty. So do you have a contrasting view of what it takes to be a leader and who can be an effective leader and how we find leaders using a slightly different intuition or approach?
Yeah, I think I have the same view. Basically, I believe that an effective leader is someone who can drive to meet the objective and also how to manage the people. So those two main things that is actually the responsibility of a leader. But I think one of the most important thing for someone to be an effective leader is actually self-awareness. So it's very important because someone can be an effective leader only if he know exactly about himself or herself. Because you need to know what is your strength, you need to know what's your weakness, you need to know what is comfortable for you, you need to know what is help that you need from others, because those things are the foundation of being a leader. And that's also important because you cannot make everyone as your role model, because there's a very various types of leaders. There's an introvert leaders, there's extroverted leaders, there are also, you know, those kind of there's so many approach, and every approach can be successful and effective as well, as long as you know what it takes to be an effective leader in your version. So I think it's very important to have a self-awareness, and also because when we talk about leadership, be it in a traditional or startup digital company or any kind of industry, I believe there's actually three levels of leadership. The first one is the self-leadership. You need to lead yourself, leading me. And then the second is leading your team. And team meaning not only meaning someone who become your subordinates, but also your peers, and also your direct reports. So it's a leading team. And then the third one is leading the organization. So leading the organization is more about, you know, team, how team interact with each other, how team interact with the urgency of the company or the organization, and etc. So I think that's it for me.
That's brilliant, actually, Mr. Iqbal. And my follow-up question is this then. So it seems like the central point, and this is also kind of going to what Melissa and Saudi said earlier, of self-awareness is important for being able to be decisive. I feel this in a lot of young leaders that are just getting out of school. It's hard to be decisive when you really don't know what to do, right? It's hard to actually kind of deal with this confusion and how do I make everyone happy, and how do I, you know, prioritize my things that I need to get done, right? I've got a boss to kind of look after, I've got my teammates. So is self-awareness, you think, a process that you can only get kind of better at with years of experience and kind of like making mistakes and learning from it? Or is there an accelerated path that maybe the tech industry has discovered whereby we can grow faster and become more self-aware faster? Or does it just take time and space to get that kind of self-awareness built in?
Yeah, I'm talking about my own experience. Yeah, experience is the only pathway. You cannot, yeah, you cannot accelerate. If you need to become more mature and more more aware about yourself, you cannot accelerate that. The only way to do that is going through experience. Probably taking wrong decision, making a lot of mistakes, making a lot of misalignments. But that's the only way I know. I'm not sure if others know other ways. That would be wonderful if there's, but there's the only way I know.
Hopefully coming to these BVE talks and learning from some of the other leaders' mistakes can actually accelerate that. Mr. Saudi, I saw you did raise your hand, but I do want to jump to some of the other speakers to spread the question around. They'll come back, yeah, if they had a follow-up idea. Let's do this, actually. Let's go over to Mr. Brian. Mr. Brian, let's kind of jump into this idea. So you write about leadership frequently. You mentioned earlier every day. I think this practice might be a good bridge into what we're talking about, because does that practice of writing about it make your process of understanding leadership and self-awareness faster? And does it also accelerate maybe developing other people who are reading your content, actually accelerate their learning process too? What do you think about that, Mr. Brian?
Yeah, so adding to what Iqbal said earlier, right? I agree, wholly agree that experience is the only way that you can gain leadership skills. But there's a difference in spending like 10 years managing 5 people and 10 years managing 500 people, right? So while it still takes time, the speed of growth where you can lead people is really depending on what you do, the problem that comes to you, the problem that you solve, the quality of the problem solving that you do, those kind of stuff. And also writing what you learn and teaching other people is part of the leadership as well. So you cannot be a good leader if you only have people following you. You have to create another leader. And that's how you do writing. And then you reflect on the writing.
That's interesting. Okay. We have a special word for this type of process here at Bukit Vista. We call it knowledge management, right? Like once knowledge has been actually understood, it becomes then our obligation to sort of reduce the tendency to reinvent the wheel again, right? Somebody says, okay, let's do this. We're like, no, we tried that 2 months ago. Actually, it didn't work. So let's avoid kind of going through this. And this process of building new leaders through established knowledge is fairly effective. Okay. All right, good. So we do agree that essentially this experience is good, but there are ways to accelerate. Mr. Brian, is there any other ways that you can think of that might accelerate the leadership process? Maybe it can be as simple as realizing you're not ready to be a leader yet, right? Or maybe it's finding a good mentor that can kind of accelerate and jump you through a few problems before you actually get there. Or like, what say you then in this particular case, Brian? Are there any leadership accelerators out there?
Yeah, I don't think that you learn, as mentioned by Pak Saudi earlier, by just reading books and that's it, right? You have to really experience it yourself. And one of the way to learn that is to observe other leaders doing that. So one of the key things of my my promise to myself is that when I observe other people, I learn not only what they do, but I also try to think why they do that, what's the impact of their doing that, and how people react to that. So we think of our wholly different dimensions, not just what's happening, but what's behind that. And that's how we should be able to learn, accelerate our learning of leadership.
Okay, sounds good. So this could be the reason why we hear a lot of people say that learning is never done. Learning is not finished at school, because even when you do come out, there's still a lot to learn. And if you can learn it, then you can essentially, that's the fast track to actually get leading 500 people, right? In a faster way. Okay, cool. Let's get over to Mr. Imam. Mr. Imam, I'm sorry to come to you last, and maybe there's some good ideas that have already been spoken, but from your particular perspective, let's say with an engineering background even, and maybe a more technical approach towards leadership, what do you think about this? Like, is leadership sort of something to do with the capacity of the person? It has something to do with the number of years of experience, decision making, or is there something that is unique the way that you see leadership differently than some of our previous speakers.
Yeah, I would love to say it will be case by case situation, I guess. I've been working for 2 companies in this startup environment for 6 years, and I cannot just say like, okay, so this type of leadership can solve all the situation. But most of the situation, I've seen one similar things where all the engineering leaders have to be really adaptable to the situation, really adaptable to the problems. And since we are working in the fast-growing startup environment, we have to be agile to tackle the situation. All of those kind of engineering fundamentals, experiences, those stuff for sure will be helped. But at some point, it still stays case by cases because some general approach also might be works. So I guess that's my perspective at the moment. Yes.
Okay, got it. All right. We've covered kind of like the first round of this. Maybe let me go back to Mr. Saudi again for Mr. Saudi. I did see you raise your hand at a certain point. Oh, for Khan, do we have to move on?
No, you haven't asked Miss Dio yet.
Oh, Miss Dio. How did I say? Okay.
I thought I'm going to be on the second one. The second topic seems nice too.
Yeah. Okay. Ms. Dio. Okay. Well, I obviously need to pay better attention, and thank you, Mr. Furkan, for stepping on my toe. See, look, everybody, that's engagement, right? Engaging makes us all learn more. So, Ms. Dio, all right. What say you now, actually? So you're actually now in the hardest position because we've covered already such such material. Is there any particular speaker that you don't agree with, or that you have a fundamentally different opinion about?
Well, I think because I got the hardest question now, I think I'd rather say that instead of like against all of the seniors that I have now, I can say that I totally agree with what they said. So I just want to give like a bit of a story. So I think my first leadership experience is when on my 3rd year of working. So they basically, I didn't apply for that. They literally connected to me and said that I want you to be a manager for HR in Indo. So basically, this startups needs a leadership position in HR. Sorry, my cats wants to be on the screen.
Cats are welcome to e-talk.
Sorry, good away, yeah. And then also, you know that I think I can say that finding a good mentors and also being very self-aware, asking for help, and also owning your mistake is something that is very needed to do. And somehow when I met other leaders, I can also see that, oh, I'm very inexperienced on handling the team. But I think when you are owning your mistake and then you want to have a growth mindset to, you know, like do something about it, then I think that's like what leadership also means. And that's an effective leader. So to summing up, all the things that the people said, those are true.
Okay, now let's kind of go from, admittedly, you mentioned that you're probably one of the youngest leaders here. So let's kind of take this perspective. So this gets you kind of closer to actually the mindset of perhaps the 400 people in this room, since most of our audience are students. Are there any differences now with the experience that you have that you see about leadership today that you probably thought differently when you were going through school? Looking at movies or just kind of hearing rumors from friends. Do you see leadership as actually being a leader now different from the way you saw it? Yes. Okay. And what are some of those differences?
Yeah, I think like when I was in school as well, I used to be in leadership positions in organizations or in any events, those kind of things. And I thought that bringing people together are the main goals. But bringing people together is actually the fuel or like the machine for you to actually achieve the goal. So what I learned is previously I tried to control everything because I thought that student will have the same thought. But then when you're going to, you know, in a professional way, people are coming from different backgrounds. They also have different experiences. So I learned that being an effective leader is to know what are the things that you can control and the things that you cannot control. So so basically I just focus on the things I can control, and the things I cannot control is more into like mitigating the, you know, like what to say, that mitigating the aftermath if this goes wrong. So yeah.
Okay, so if I'm listening correctly, that kind of sounds like what Mr. Iqbal was talking about
Yeah.
self-awareness, about understanding, okay, if I can't
Mm.
control these and I can't control these, then, okay, good. That's reminds me of the serenity prayer, like, you know, give me what the strength to change the things I can, the tranquility to accept the things I can't, and the wisdom to know the difference between each of them. Okay, let's circle it back to Mr. Iqbal then. So same question. I'm actually sorry, I don't know, I haven't studied each person's CV enough to know who has the most experience in the field, but I think it's probably going to be Melissa has the most, or Mr. Saudi has the most. But okay, I'll try to go in some order that makes sense. Yeah, Mr. Iqbal, same question, right? So this process of self-awareness was something that Dio discovered like through real life that wasn't really apparent in school, right? Did you discover anything in real life that you didn't know in school about leadership?
Yeah. I'll be honest. When I was at school, I think leadership is about title.
Right.
Having title as the manager, as the head, as a VP, or it's something shiny, and it's something that I really want to get that because I can brag about
prestige.
It. And yeah, prestige, and it's gonna be fun because I have this title, and also I have team that I can command to do anything. But turns out the reality is the leadership is a very hard things.
It is.
It took mental tolls as well. Sometimes it feels lonely, and probably you as a CEO feel this about is better. But I can also speak as a what I say sandwich manager. So I have C-levels above me. I have a team below me, and it makes me a sandwich because I need to pass a message from above to below, and also from below to above. And it's also a challenging task because the communication need to be filtered, and also need to be sorted, and need to be communicated in a certain in a certain way. And it's actually so when you become leader, it's not only about doing the work and getting the metrics that you have been assigned to, but also to get trust from your team. It's also about managing your superior. So a lot of things to do, and this makes what I said earlier about being a leader is something that's prestigious, and I really want to have that become more getting down into reality because it's still fun to be a leader. Also, there are a lot of upside of being a leader, but also there are a lot of responsibilities that you need to take, and it's an endless learning process to have that.
With prestige comes pain, I think. With that, I used to. I felt the same way. I was like, oh yeah, leaders get the nice cars, they get to fly first class, but then you're like, oh, well, you kind of need that because you're suffering a lot. And I also hear you on it. It's not just the technical, but it's also the soft skills of developing the relationships and understanding how to build trust. Whereas if you're working on an individual contributor level, you don't necessarily have to play that particular. You don't need to think about that as often, I think. I like your word, sandwich manager. That's the first time I've heard that. Hey, another reason why we have this, by the way, is for all of us as leaders to feel a little bit less lonely. When we can talk about what we're actually experiencing, I feel like sometimes leadership is like being the captain of a ship. You don't really see what other captains are dealing with. So it just feels like your own ship is always like never quite right. But I think by having these moments and kind of sharing our war stories, we can engage and feel better. Furqan, how many minutes do I have before the next topic? I'm trying to budget my time.
Yes, actually you already passed 5 minutes, so probably now we move on to the.
Oh, wait, let me do this. Let me just quickly ask Melissa, right?
Oh yeah.
Then we'll jump to the next topic.
Yes,
Melissa,
yes,
okay.
yes.
Now you've had some time spent to really think about this in many different phases. So what I'm hoping is maybe you can tell us a progression story. Yeah. Your first thoughts of leadership when you graduated, your first promotion, thoughts of leadership, and each stage of leadership throughout your 16 years being at DHL. Do you remember those milestones when your belief about leadership changed and your ideas about leadership have changed?
Yeah, well, to I actually had what I call the post fresh graduate syndrome. You know, whenever you write down your first CV and you told the hiring manager or the HR person of the company that you're applying for that I'm looking for a managerial position in your company. Little that I know that it actually entails a lot of responsibility. I don't even know what does it mean. I just know that it, like what Mas Iqbal said, it is a flashy role. It's great to have, but you know, quoting Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. It's true,
Right.
really. And it's a position of service. As you know, and as I grow in my career, it's leadership is actually a position of service. You are in
Yes.
are in a unique position whereby you're not just commanding people to do stuff, but you are actually thinking about the greater, you know, about the benefit of many. You're not thinking about yourself. So that's
Yeah.
why I call it's a position of service. And
Correct.
as you go higher, yes, I agree. It tends to be lonelier and lonelier because there are some things that you cannot share with other people. There are
That's
some
right.
things that you need to, you know, hold on to yourself. And this is actually why making sure that you are fit emotionally, physically is very important. Otherwise, you cannot take care of other people. So those
Absolutely.
are the lessons that I've gathered in the 16 years of my career. You know, I think, frankly speaking, I think I've had my share of experience being led by somebody who is, well, not so good leader and a good leader, which fortunately you know, I have had a lot more experience being led by good leaders. So what
Yes.
I've learned from them is actually you have to listen, you have to be able to you know, take care of yourself really well. People
Correct.
around you can actually see you whether you are in a good position to lead or not, and they're actually absorbing those energy from you. So this is why it's so important for us to, you know, as a leader, to take care of ourselves. Sorry if I'm, you know, going out of the path of discussion so far.
I think you nailed it on the head. But leadership is a position of service. It actually, that's the greatest, I think, contrast between I think what Mr. Iqbal said earlier. When you first look at leadership, you see the company car, you see the title, you see the fancy office, and you see the suit, and you see this person's the boss. But when you actually understand it, you start seeing, yeah, it is service. It is about taking care of others. It's about letting, I think Mr. Iqbal said it earlier, about letting other people actually get to do their best work. And maybe we don't think about that when we're at school. We think about like what our own glory can be. I want to get an A+, right? But it turns out it's more like leading a community. It's more, some of the, I noticed that some of the student activities sometimes actually benefit and create a leadership mindset faster than academic work. Okay, so we covered quite a lot of material, so I'll try to kind of condense everything down. So we agreed that there are certain basic qualities needed in leadership. We knew that experience matters, and it helps devise a stronger self-awareness. And the self-awareness is important because we need to take care of ourselves in order to lead. We need to be able to take care of other people, and we need to be able to know what we can do and what we can't do so that we choose the right battles to actually fight. And then if we prioritize things well, if we get the list of things and the list of people in the correct order, and we're maybe able to make decisions, then we get the results that we want as a leader. And it's not about the flash, it's not about the prestige, it's not about the trappings of success, but it's really about just kind of putting in the hours and being emotionally strong. And that's what actually seems to be the common thread of what we've explored here as part of leadership. Excellent. Okay, thank you very much for adding all these bubbles of wisdom. And hopefully this makes it a very sparkly beverage now that we have. Question 2 that we're a little bit late on, but I'll try to accelerate this. But how to manage a team during a crisis? How to manage a team during a crisis? I already know who I'm going to go to first, probably for this. So we've all, I think we would all agree that the past 2 years during the pandemic could be called one of the greatest crises to any type of business. I felt like we effectively went through like a war in this particular phase. But crises can be global, or they can be very small. They can be maybe a crisis with one particular person on your team. So let's explore this. Let's explore what are some of the tough decisions that leaders need to be able and prepared to make during a crisis, and what are some unpopular opinions that maybe we need to enforce. And also looking at this idea of loneliness and what Melissa just said earlier about having this kind of degree of privacy. I feel like that's maybe what locks us in. Maybe we can share and go about this. Let's go over to Ms. Dio first, right? Kind of coming from your background, right? Looking at leadership from this perspective and getting through crises, what are sort of like your go-to methods to manage through a crisis? And tell us about maybe some examples of what feels like crisis.
Okay, so if you ask me how many people that I led off by myself, I was the one who speak with them, signing the documents and everything. The first time is when I was 24 years old. So
Wow.
yeah, so at that time I was heading this HR role. And I think COVID just hit around March 2023 at that time. And we need to decide something on April or May, going again until October. So there are a lot of like wave of layoff that happened at that time in the company that I work for. So I can say that, yeah, when it comes to crisis, for sure, I question myself, is it my fault that the company is declining? That's like the first question that I have, because I'm the HR, because I was so young, I was inexperienced, and I was the one who actually hired those people back then, but now I was the one who actually fired them due to all of these situations, like very unwanted and also unexplained situations somehow. So the method when it comes to crisis from my side, this is like what happened. So my CEO at that time told me that it's totally not your fault. It's totally because of the business, and we don't have that much money for the runaway of the company, things like that. So we need to do this. And I want you to be mature enough and try to put away your feelings first. So it's actually very okay to feel, you know, to have such a burden and everything, or blaming yourself. But then after that, you have to get up. And I know that it sounds so easy to say it, but this is one thing that I learned, is how you should separate business and also personal things, because I know that I'm friends with some of my you know, like employees, but business is still business. If we keep them, the business will, you know, like not running well, and we will lay off more people as well. So yeah, I think this is like my one key realization when it comes to crisis. You really need to know where to put the personal boxes. Like, feels your feeling is totally okay, but then how you know, like jump back again to actually like fight for that, like work for that, is also what is important. Because again, you need to ensure that whatever the goal is, you are achieving that, and also do like a win-win solution for both sides.
This sounds very much in common with the first thing we just talked about, like that emotional strength, the ability to prioritize what's going on in your mind, the ability to sort of have maturity in this. And it's actually quite it's quite inspirational that you're feeling like so responsible for the careers of the people around you, and you're going through this difficult crisis yourself. And learning the boundaries, I think, between work and personal, which brings me to actually Ryan. And after I had just read your article about loyalty between company and employees, I think this is a good segue to that topic, right? You see, during the crisis, of course, like people have to lay off employees because they're not contributing to the bottom line. But then this is also kind of an interesting question about loyalty, right? Should we be loyal to companies, and is becoming a leader an expression of some sort of loyalty or commitment to a company? And that's maybe how you got to become a leader in the first place. So what can we learn from crises, and what does that tell us about the companies we work for? What does that tell us about ourselves as leaders? And what does that tell us about the relationship that I guess every layer of employee can have with the entire organization? What do you think, Brian?
I would think that for companies, for us, we have to really see ourselves. Where's our position? It's different if we are the one that is leading the company and making decisions, and if we are some new guy that is on the grassroots, on the lowest level of the company. It's really different, right? And by understanding where we stand, we can make preparations on how to act if something did happen, right? So, for example, if there's and so on, if you just like want to be a family with your company, but your company will not survive if they try to keep you. Right. So you have to be aware of that, and then you have to prepare for yourself. you have, besides being a leader on your company, you have to be a leader for your family as well. And I believe family is more important than your company, so that you have to balance the needs of your family and your company like that.
Correct. Okay. All right. Excellent. Excellent. I think more self-awareness, right? More about that internal way of structuring the different, sort of like the different conflicts, the different incongruencies that might happen. Let's jump to Mr. Saudi. Mr. Saudi, hospitality, you and I are both in the same industry, and you look over a massive number of people. How did you experience leadership during a crisis in the past years when very few people were traveling and Thailand had its borders locked down, and you have to make some decisions about who you keep and who you don't?
Yeah, that's actually a pretty tough situation actually during that time, when the pandemic start, and then we start thinking now that because the things that business start dropping, right? So once business start dropping, people start thinking about the cost. So one of the costs is always people cost, right? They cut every cost already. So meaning, let's say like within my organization in Thailand, I have 32 hotels. So every single hotels, they have different financial status. So basically what I throw back to the team is that look at your financial status. How long can you manage this financial status, or how long can you manage your cash flow? I mean, within your current hotel. And then you got to draw a plan, a communication plan properly on how are you going to communicate with the teams, right? And even come up with the scenario, right? Who gonna be the first group of to be laid off? Who gonna be the second group? Who gonna be the third group? It is very painful job, but it is something that if you are running the business, of course you have to do. And I agree with everyone here as well that it is not very easy when you are in the role that you've got to make decision. And when the times come, even though you have tears, you're gonna do it with tears. You're gonna do even though if you're upset, or even though how much sad are you. But at the end of the day, you need to make sure that the business is. If the business is not running, when the times come to us that we got to close the hotel, then we got to close the company.
Everyone loses their job.
Everyone's leaving, but the major part is that on the communication, how are you going to communicate? It is very easy to communicate, not that easy. It is less challenge to communicate with senior leadership, but it is going to be big challenge to communicate with rank and file people, right?
Yeah, of course.
They are very
not used to this idea.
Yeah, they are very emotional. They have family to look after. They have this and that people. So it comes to us again as the leader. So how are we going to negotiate with the investor to support the best, right? So if we come if we come up with a proper game plan, so then we can get back to the rank and file people or to our people, say that okay, we are now able to support you for the next 3 months only. So now if you have a plan for yourself, you can start planning now. So the things that you got to be very transparent with your team, going to have very open communication with your team, and let them share the pain, what you are feeling right now, right? So once they feel this, and then there's still like a few of them which is not really going to that don't want to share this pain with you, right? But it's no choice at the time. You got to know, you got to manage the different behavior or reaction from your colleagues at the time. So, but that time to time depends on the person. But at the time, from my experience, I mean, it was very sad moment. But at the end of the day, right, because that situation hit, and then people like to save their own life rather than
of course,
right? So at the end of the day, people understand, and then they leave back to their own hometown, which is actually now we are back into the challenge that we cannot find people to work.
Well, I think it's karma in a way, right? What you've said, Mr. Saudi, is actually very fascinating. So what I gather from that is, in a crisis, we almost, instead of us having to bear the crisis, we actually have to share the crisis mindset with everybody that we're leading. So instead of you actually making a decision to cut people, you bring that responsibility to each hotel to understand, okay, this is the situation, you have to make it work, right? So that they also inhabit that particular scenario as really as you do. And also then there's a process of I remember this in hospitality, actually. Even if there's bad news, it needs to be delivered on a silver plate, right? Because
Yeah.
that's what actually kind of is the nature of hospitality. That it's not necessarily the content, but it's the way people feel about it.
I think
And there's going to be this emotional
Yeah.
turmoil, I think, through the process that you're going through. But you've just got to manage that. And this is interesting. I think it was it Iqbal or Imam that told me earlier, part of leading is about building trust with people, right? Building trust with the people around you, these people skills. And all of a sudden, it feels like you have to like withdraw all your trust, right? And break that trust bond in order to have this, which ultimately kind of I guess that goes back to what we were saying earlier about that loneliness, about like, you've gained somebody's trust and now you have to like take it back, right? So I guess does it become like another issue of how you manage this feeling process internally and how you build this capacity to, is maybe that the fundamental of managing a crisis? How well do you actually hold conflicting thoughts in your mind without losing your mind?
Yeah, it is just make sure that you analyze the situation properly and put that into the strategy plan. It requires strategy, to depart the people and to close the company, right? And to ensure that we after our team well.
Okay, let's talk about strategy then. Mr. Imam, I'm not sure about your particular business during the pandemic. Did that actually thrive? Did more people consume aquaculture products? Or were you affected adversely during COVID?
Yes, for the tech aquaculture sector, we are quite lucky actually. I mean, like we don't get too much impact from the tech winter, just like the others. And also, even when the pandemic is coming in, a lot of consumer actually purchasing more farmers fish and farmers shrimp, something like that. So actually yeah, we are quite lucky, I guess. Yep.
So the strategy is to pick your industry well. Yes, that could be. Okay. No, I would, yeah, that seems okay. Let's jump over to Melissa then. Melissa, DHL, I'm sure, was probably affected by the pandemic a little bit, being a global business and all. In terms of a strategy, I guess what we're looking at is probably a simple question then. Is it, who do you decide to keep and who do you decide not to keep? And also coming from HR, I guess that across a global company, maybe you see a particular global strategy around that. What say you in this particular case? Like if you do have to downsize, are there any tips that, let's say, somebody who is earning a job and supporting their family, which side, like how would they distinguish themselves in a way that would make them more likely to keep their job?
Well, logistic is fortunately one of the industry sector that is, I would say, thriving amidst the pandemic. So we actually,
that's right. That's right.
Fortunately, thank God, we didn't lay off anybody. So I am so sorry to hear what happened in other industry, but I can actually empathize how difficult that would be in such unexpected and very challenging circumstances. But for DHL, I don't, for that particular matter regarding the pandemic, we don't actually let off any people. But those are challenging times for everybody in the world, I would say. And our focus was actually keeping our employees' safety without jeopardizing business and our customers. So those are weird times, to say, to put it mildly. Those are weird times. And what we did as an HR is basically we had to make a decision on how we protect our employees. So yeah. So HR leadership in this case is actually setting up more towards protecting our employees and making sure that.
Let's do this then, Ms. Melissa. 16 years, there must have been some crises, right? Because we're beginning to kind of drill down into like the pandemic as the only crisis, right? But maybe there's crises in a more personal way. Maybe it's about like like, or maybe it's about hiring somebody that you later regretted, right? Or about not firing somebody that you later regretted. I think a crisis can be at a micro level too as well. In your 16 years at DHL, have you experienced maybe less these dramatic global things that sort of like, well, what can we do? This is like act God, right? But more like in a way that really tests your personal, it really puts a stress on you as like emotionally balanced, and what do I do in this particular case?
Well, I couldn't remember any specific time. So sorry, probably is it okay if you can circle back to me and let me?
Sure, absolutely. Let's go over to sure, no worries. Let's go over to Iqbal. So Iqbal, did you make it through the crisis with no scars, or once again, it can be macro or micro in this particular case, like a crisis. Did you ever have to, like when you're 4 people in a room, did you ever have to be like, okay, this person can't be here anymore? We've grown past their capability, I know I have, right? I've started this company, and then along the way, people that were very loyal and I had great personal relationships with couldn't do the work anymore. And every day they came to the company, it was just kind of really agonizing for everybody. So eventually, we had to come up with a separation plan. So having seen, let's say, your business go from 4 to the size it is now, any crises that you experienced along the way?
Yeah, I think from my experience, when we are finished with one crisis, we are getting into another crisis, right?
Sounds fun.
I know you're gonna laugh because you know it's true. Yeah, because the scale will be different, but there is always a sense of urgency in every moment during running your organization or company. And I think I just want to add one of the keywords that has been said a couple times by others, which is transparency. We need to make transparency and over communicating part of the habit of the organization. Not only during the crisis time, but it becomes the habit that every leader need to over communicate things. Every leader need to be transparent and be vulnerable as possible to the team. And that not only open up the condition to everyone on the team all the time, so they are not gonna be surprised by a certain crisis moment, because they know the escalation on every moment of the time, right? But also it opens up the transparency from the other side. So it opens up the transparency from the team, not only from the leaders. When the leaders become transparent, the team will become transparent as well. And when
you get that trust back.
Exactly. When we give trust, they will give their trust back, right? And that will create a healthy communication on the organization. So any kind of situation, be it a crisis, be it a non-crisis, everyone know the situation as early as possible, not become surprised. Because when they know the situation at the late stage, it will become very complicated. It will become very hard to communicate things. There will always be mistakes, but if we can prevent them by making transparency as part of the habit of everyone on the organization, that will make any kind of crisis will be easier faced by everyone of the organization, by a leader and the team.
And Mr. Iqbal, I have a great follow-up question. Why do you think young leaders or newly minted leaders have a hard time being transparent with the people they're leading?
I think it's about insecurity,
fear.
Yeah. Well, sometimes we can our fear will become true. I mean, if we trust something, sometimes we share something to our team and we hope them to understand and give their trust back, and turns out it's not. That happens as well. But But the other upside scenario is also having the same chance of that failure to happen. So why don't we just pull out the transparency? But from my experience, most of the times, probably more than 70% of the times, transparency always give a positive side rather than the negative side.
I agree. You know, Mr. Iqbal, this kind of ties back to what Mr. Saudi was saying earlier about how bad news or whatever news, it just needs to be delivered correctly. This communication is so important. And I feel like this is the essence of great leadership, that you have to get really good at delivering bad news or framing bad news in a way that does not lose trust, right? That you know, there's something bad happening, but there's nothing I could have done about it. I've tried this, and we've gone to the lengths. And here are the options that we can have, right? We can fire everybody, right? And we can all just go home broke. Or some people have to essentially make the sacrifice, right? But we're going to try our best to tell you what it is. We're not going to bullshit you, fill you with hope, so that you have time to start planning what you want to do next, right? Okay, good. I think, okay, let's do this now. It's time to move to the audience questions. So let's see. All right. So if we'll take a look at our screens, we got some engagement and I love it. We got for Mr. Saudi. Mr. Saudi, you have the most upvoted question, and it's an anonymous asker, but the question is, and it's been upvoted 6 times, is how do you persevere and convince employees in your establishment to be motivated? How do you convince people to be motivated? Okay, so I guess a large number of employees, 10,000 people. What do you do to motivate people, Mr. Saudi?
Well, if you are talking me as the person, right? Usually I'll be the person who just walk around the organization that I'm in. So
okay.
I will always ensure my managers, every single one need to walk the property, need to walk into the area that they look after.
Yes.
Make sure that they talk to people, make sure that they listen to people. And the key thing is that I think one of the most difficult qualification of being a good leader is to listen, right? Most of the leaders tend not to listen, but tend listen to reply, but not to fully listen. What I mean, you know, people work so hard at the ground, so they somehow want somebody just to listen to them, basically, right?
Yeah.
So be around, listen to them, and respond to them. If anything simple, we respond to them immediately. If there is something, you know, that you require more time, so you just get back to them, or give me a few more days or whatever to get back. So, but make sure you deliver your commitment. Yeah. Excellent.
And for Ms. Dio, Ms. Melissa, in HR, I think we talk about how incentives and punishments, right, in terms of motivating. One of the things that I'm listening to Mr. Saudi talk about, this sounds like recognition, right? It sounds like when you walk around as a senior leader, you look at people's work, it becomes real, right? They know it, and you know, like the senior person is looking at my work, right? When you're listening, that's a form of recognition. It's literally like you see them, right? Could that be the secret? Is how do we recognize people's work more often through involvement, through actually seeing them, and not just kind of like go, you know, I delegated that to somebody who delegated that to somebody. I don't look at that kind of stuff anymore. I sit in my office and I answer emails, right? Well, let's go to Mr. Saudi first. Would that be a good insight, or is there another way to interpret sort of the meaning behind what you just explained?
I mean, see, if you walk around, right, that's, I mean, all the employees, not at least if you walk, we what should I say? I mean, we're not going to see everyone in the ground, but at least we will see majority of them. And then whenever they have question, it can be simple, small question, which is they need the answer just right now, or maybe they don't have time to come and see us, or they have time to come and see their supervisor. So when they see us around, they can question us at that time, and then we kind of able to provide immediate answer to the employee.
Got it.
So they will, and one most important thing is that, you know, every single day when you finish your duty, I usually, encourage the manager to at least say thank you for the day. I mean, thank you for today.
Of course, yeah. Okay.
Yep.
I will agree with you 100%, Mr. Saudi, because before our operations here at Bukit Vista, also a hospitality company, was very broken for a long time. And it was because essentially the supervisors weren't paying very close attention to the work and they weren't walking around, so to speak. But as soon as we changed the culture with that, we saw much better results, actually. So it is the nature of leadership to just be present and be available so that if there's something that needs to be escalated, you build that trust by being available for people to consult with when they need help. And that goes back to, I think, what Melissa was saying, this culture of service, right? That you need to be ready to serve the people that are working for you. Okay, that's interesting. All right. Mr. Saudi, would that be a accurate conclusion then, based on what we've explored?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know. Sometimes I'm trying to guess. I'm trying to see if I'm listening correctly.
You're right.
Okay.
Be approachable.
Good stuff.
That's the thing. Yeah. Be present.
Excellent. Be present. Mr. Saudi, you have a second question. You seem to have a fan group here.
Okay.
This is actually a identified E Kadik Rian Abi Purma. So Balinese person, actually. So Mr. Saudi, what are the strategies as a leader you use to remain calm in the midst of pressure during a crisis? And how do you assess if this strategy is successful or not?
So as
Mr.
I
Saudi?
said, I mean, so this seems to be two questions, right? So
Okay.
basically how to assess the strategy and how to remain calm, right?
Yes.
So let me start on the how to assess the strategy, whether it works or not. So basically, I mean, if you start with your plan properly, right? And you need to keep monitor every single step, right? So you ensure that you have regular meeting with the teams, you have regular catch up with the team. It doesn't need to be a formal meeting, but it is kind of, a pop-up meeting where you and team observe or just encourage the team to get back if there is any challenge on the way. So I think putting yourself into everywhere that your employee exists. So I think that's how you would see if your strategy works or not. But I mean, I don't know. I think with the current generation, it is more for us to be more casual, to be more informal with them. So when we're down to them, then we will hear from them, and then we will see what is the result is turning to, right? So I think key to see whether it's useful, successful or not, is just to keep monitor in a casual way. And
I see.
Yeah, in a second part is how to remain calm. I think remain calm is very difficult. I think this requires years, right? I can give you. I used to fail once. I mean, I can share with you that when I was first appointed as director of HR, and at the time I was so aggressive because I'm so confident with my skill and qualification, but nobody wants to work with me. That's the thing. But then after that, after I moved from that place, then I learned that, okay, it is not only you to be smart. I mean, not only you who are very skillful, but you need the team to work with you, right? So from that, you learn to listen to people. You learn to get the feedback from people and start implementing it. So I think experience will help you, and to be calm, I think religion could help sometimes. Meditation can help, but by being through lots of problem and you keep repeating the same problem, I think you kind of set up your mind to understand the next or future problem or similar problem that is coming. Yeah, so I think calm can start from that. Yeah,
I think that kind of builds the story, right? So essentially the experience builds the recognition of the problem when it happens again, and the recognition builds familiarity, and the familiar breeds kind of emotional stability. You're like, I've seen this before. That's such a big deal. Okay, great. Let's actually bring some other speakers in because there are some good questions here. Let's ask this question about building a positive work environment. Let's go to Dio. Dio, what do you do to build a positive work environment?
Okay, so this is something that I think very fundamental is setting the right expectations to the people, because that when I can say that starting from the hiring process itself, like the way, so I can say that as an HR, this is one thing that I also learned in my experiences, that we want to be seen as a company that are very, very good, and also that we can give you like the best experience, because we know that everything is not like all up, but also there will be like some downtime that we have. So I think it's actually very okay to build the employer branding, but then also like the way you speak with your soon to be or like potential employees is also about like how you also tell about the expectations. Like, for example, hey, you know what, currently in this company are all millennials, so you know how it probably will work, for example. Or like, hey, you know that it's only like 10 people for now, but we are trying to build a team, things like that. Or like, hey, we are more international talents that are working here, so this is the expectations. So starting from how we can put the right expectation, because each industry and also each like each type of company will be different. Because I think that for students, so just to highlight for students here, salesperson in export company or in hospitality or in startup will probably different. They have actually like a different way of approaching people. So that's why it's also very important for you to not only explore about the role, but also about the industry itself. And I think as a HR or like as a company, we also need to also work on that, on setting expectations about, hey, this is the gate to my company and this is the expectation. Same as how we work on it in a team. So this is what I also do when I first meeting anyone in the team. So I'm not sitting everyone at the same time. Well, I will do that, but also like one-on-one with them, because I am trying to be inclusive as I can. So try to see what kind of thing that I can support to them and what kind of things that probably they can support me. So I think like the very first fundamental is more into that.
That's really wise answer, because a lot of people would say, I would offer more perks, but that's an unlimited basket, right? You can keep on offering, but setting expectations is the more, I think, powerful method. That you actually can create the tone for the work environment by choosing to actually reveal maybe some of the less attractive things that are associated with the environment. Okay, great. Let's go to Mr. Imam. Imam, what do you think from, let's say, an engineering perspective? How can we make a more positive work environment for our teams?
Yeah, hello. Yeah, sure. I mean, like, actually, it's almost the same, but maybe about building a positive environment, it requires really intentional effort and commitment. Actually, commitment is the most important one, because this is not just about creating a positive environment, but it will also affect the overall culture that currently in the company. So a lot of positivity and inclusion, for example, that we want to give into the new positive environment, it's supposed to be commitment from all of the stakeholder that are being in the company. Because if one or two stakeholder, for example, don't have any commitment, it's usually just like back to square zero again. That's so far that I've seen so far in a couple of initiatives, something like that. And then I mean, like, about the positive environment itself, I mean, like, for me, open communication is the most important. And then also we used to promote like teamwork things, and also sometimes we forget to give recognition and appreciate for contribution coming in from each of the employee. It looks simple, but sometimes if we can emphasize like giving recognition and try to appreciate every little or simple things, it may affect your overall culture actually. And it used to bring to a more positive environment, something like that. Yes. I don't know, because sorry.
Oh, go ahead, please.
Yeah.
Please
Okay,
continue.
thank you. Yeah. In some of my past experience, it seems like actually in my team, even in a huge engineering team scale, like for example 100, sometimes when we try to give them space to come up in front of the others, giving them like recognition, just like a simple awards for not only the leaders but also for each of the individual contributors. At first when I'm doing that, I don't know how much will be the impact, but I try that with my team, and I got a lot of positive feedback, like oh,
Yeah.
so yeah, my leader is aware about even my smallest things that I contribute to the overall process. So it's amazing. I mean, like for me, I haven't think about that before, but after doing that, oh, okay, so there are a lot of how people different perspective on how not only the leader but also the individual contributors, seeing the leaders appreciating them in a daily basis, something like that. Yes.
That is so true. And I think it comes back almost and ties back to what Mr. Saudi said earlier about like the leaders being present, available, really digging in with their teams and noticing what their teams do. I've noticed recognition is kind of effective both ways. It's recognition for positive work, but recognition also for negative work. As long as you're present and you're showing that you care about the work someone does, I noticed that the environment kind of gets supercharged, right? Constructive feedback that's presented the right way can just be as effective as positive feedback with creating a really powerful work environment. And I feel your pain also, Mr. Imam, about like this. I come from an engineering background myself, so it feels like the work is the technical stuff, right? The work is getting code to run, the work is getting the hardware to work, but it often confounds me. It also surprises me how simple, like just, hey, good job. I noticed that you did this. It can get more results than just pushing all the technical things to work all the time. Okay, great. Let's go into the final topic, right? And we've kind of maybe have covered this from a few different sides, but let's kind of drill into now. So we're speaking to an audience of students. We're speaking to people who are in school, first, second, third, fourth year students, right? And the question is how I can become a leader. And I assume that if people are here, they're probably interested in this idea. How can I become a leader? And I think stemming from the transparency that we kind of talked about earlier as a way to begin every relationship, I'd like to confront this possibility. Is it possible that not everyone should be a leader? Is it possible that if you're attracted to, like, let's say the wrong aspects of leadership, like let's say the prestige, the glitz, the title, then you might not actually enjoy doing that, and it might not be a good trade-off for you to do that. But if you have certain other, and I think what we agree is generally there's attributes, right? Not necessarily skills, but attributes. You might actually be a leader. Or let's say you have nothing, right? You have absolutely nothing right now. You have no skills, no knowledge, no understanding. Where's a good place to begin if you aspire to be a leader? For this topic, I'm going to start with, I'll start with Brian. Yeah. I guess you can begin on any of those threads, right? Like, should everyone want to be a leader? If you don't like serving other people, should you still think about being a leader? If you're grumpy and you blow up, emotionally all the time, does that mean you shouldn't be a leader anymore? What do you think about what it takes to become a leader, and what are some good sort of ways to develop leadership if it's for you?
Thank you, Jing. So what I think is that it's not you're a leader or not a leader, right? It's a spectrum. Leadership is a spectrum. How much of a leadership skills you have depending on your condition at the moment. For example, even if you're by yourself, you're still leading yourself. Eventually you get married, you lead your family. For women, you lead your kids. You lead a lot of people in the future as well. So you need to become a better leader. It's not how I can become a leader. You need to become a better leader. You need to become better at leadership. However, up to which point you want to go, it's up to you. So you don't need to like become a leader of 10,000 people, the leader of a big company and so on. You don't need to do that. But you need to really understand that without understanding that you need leadership, it will be a very hard life for you.
Understood. Okay, so leadership is a spectrum. We're going to have leadership responsibilities anyways, but it's about finding essentially the correct direction, the correct flavor of leadership, if you will. Okay, that's a really wise answer. Let's go to Melissa. We said we get back to you. We're back now. So you worked in HR. You've probably made, I don't know, probably thousands, tens of thousands, maybe a lot of hiring decisions, sometimes for leadership roles. What do you see in terms of like what a person should think about as a student right now in terms of becoming leader? I think we agreed that people who want to become leaders right away might not have the right, wherewithal to do that, right? But are there any patterns that you see in, let's say, identifying somebody who is capable of, let's say, a certain type of leadership position, right? Within DHL or not, or what are things you look for in terms of knowing if you're suitable to be leader, or finding leaders in the people that you come across?
Okay. Well, I think I saw a sneak peek of one question from one of the audience. If I'm an introvert, can I be a good leader? And I'm probably from there. So thank you for the question. It's actually a very good question. So let me give you a straightforward answer now. Yes, you can. There is no such thing. There's no limitation with regards to, if you want to be a leader, then you have to possess some certain types of personality. No, everybody can be a leader. Everybody can be a leader. So coming back to your question, Jing, what kind of leadership traits that I'm looking for from someone, a candidate that would, applying for a leadership position? Well, first of all, I think I would look for, it doesn't have to be somebody with a certain, amount of time that this person has been in a leadership position, but we can actually see whether, first of all, whether that person is result oriented, whether this person knows what needs to be achieved and how to achieve it. And secondly, how to build trust and engagement, because leadership plays a very important role in the organization. Research shows that many people leave the company because of bad leadership. So that actually speaks a lot about the importance of leadership and how, and leadership comprises the skill, the listening skill, whether you want to listen to your team, whether you are willing to open for feedback, admitting your shortcomings and bounce back from that mistake. And also coming back from that is also how to create and how to have and create trust with your colleagues, with your team. And also about, we're going to talk about grit a bit. This term is actually something new, but it talks about the how you can bounce back from mistake. And it's actually something that we as an HR are looking even more these days, because there are a lot of uncertainties. So we're talking about resilience. Can you show how resilient you are? And you can actually build that. As a matter of fact, all of us, we're actually facing our own challenges, and we're being challenged about how we build our own resilience in our own life. So those are, some qualities that I can mention that we can start building on our own to, to become a good leader.
I think this is very inspirational, Melissa, because that question about introvert and not, I used to think that was a myth I believed in. I thought, oh, be a leader, you need to go out and just pound your chest and, I'm a leader. But I've seen so many effective leaders are fairly quiet. They're substantial. They make good decisions, and they build trust.
And so, Jing, there's this another question, interesting question that I actually saw. One of the audience actually asked whether this has got something to do with good public speaking skill, and that person likes to talk. So if I may, those are actually two different things. Like somebody who likes to talk is actually a part of personality traits, while public speaking is a skill. So to be a good leader, it doesn't mean that you have to possess those two. It's not mutually exclusive. So somebody who's actually learning to become a public speaker can be a good leader, because it's a skill. You are mastering it as you do it, learning by doing. And somebody who likes to talk doesn't mean that that person is going to be a better leader than somebody who is more reserved. I'm sorry. Those are actually personality traits, and everybody, regardless of their personality, can be a good leader. This is coming from someone who's an introvert. I'm just saying.
And I think it's so inspirational, because these, once again, we have these BVU talks to dispel myths. And I think it's so easy when you're in college to see like the charisma around people who are, naturally very shiny, and they, and the real world doesn't really work that way. The real world has a memory sometimes, beyond 4 years. It remembers like what people have done in their history. And I think a lot of times people take their clues about leaders from the other people around them, right? Like, so if you do have that respect and result orientation, and you have a group of people who trust you, a lot of people just go, okay, well, it seems like everyone here really respects you. So the natural default way is to also go that direction. I've been pretty shocked at how introverted people have gotten very, very far. And I think it comes down to being able to listen. Very well. In such an urgency. Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you, Melissa. That is a real nugget of wisdom there. Okay. Let's jump over to Iqbal. Tech is different from traditional industry or not? I don't know. Maybe leaders are different qualities. Need to be more agile. Maybe need to be more willing to change their position on using Slack or WhatsApp or whatever. So what do you think are sort of like the base attributes that you look for in terms of finding people to stand beside you in leadership positions?
Yeah, I think definitely there are a lot of traits that we can see whether a person is a good leader or not. But I just want to point out one thing. I believe that a great leader is actually coming from a great individual contributor. So I don't believe a leader, someone deserves to be a leader just because he is good at managing people, but not able to do the works. Because we have some experiences with that kind of people, and it's not effective. If someone just good at managing, delegating, communicating, but not actually know how things works, it actually can disrupt all of the things that is going well on the team. So also that also answering the question how I can become a leader, you can start with being a great individual contributor. You can start with being a good team that managed by other teams. So you mimic your good leader. You try to imitate the good things from your leader, and then when the time comes for you to become a leader, you can doing better than your previous leader. And also want to point out that if we're talking about a career advancement, there's actually two career paths. The first one is becoming leader, and then the second one is becoming the senior individual contributor.
Right.
In the tech industry, there are a lot of individual contributors that not become a leader, not become a people manager, but they are become a senior individual contributor, be it a senior product manager, a senior designer, a senior engineer. They have the same perks with the leader position, but they don't have to be leading. So I'm just saying, continuing what Melissa said, there are definitely various types of leaders. And also there are definitely various types or various paths to gain a career advancement, not only just becoming a leader that have team. That's not the only way to get the career advancement. There are a lot of other alternatives. So if you are not comfortable of leading other people, you can also advance your career with becoming a senior individual contributor in your industry or your organization.
And you know what's really, if I may, actually, I've noticed there's a common theme across what Brian, Melissa, and Iqbal, you've said. It seems like a really senior leader, what they do is they design roles for people, right? They see the potential in people. They see like, okay, you can lead individually, you can lead your family, you can lead in, let's say, a particular super individual contributor, and it's being able to like identify this talent and put them in a role and not force them to do something that they're not going to be good at, or expect something that they shouldn't expect to do. It seems like that's maybe like something I'm hearing across all three conversations, right? It's about really knowing your talent and then putting your talent in the place where they can do their greatest work. I actually have later on the huddle. I'm gonna have some challenges with Iqbal. I've seen both ways though. I've seen people who are great at individual contribution, and really they struggle with leading, right? And I've seen people who I thought were absolutely worthless, right, in terms of their contribution, but they were so good with relationships and they were so good with actually asking questions and listening that eventually they figured out kind of how to manage people, because it's like a soft art, right? I think Mr. Iman was talking earlier about like getting to the heart of engineering teams, and it's about recognizing. And I saw so many engineers are so focused on, let's say, my work, my achievements. It's like school again. I need to get an A, and if I get an A, you have to get a B. And that sometimes is not the best way to actually create, like, let's say, the best outcome for the team. But okay, very fascinating, very rich. Let's bounce it back to Mr. Saudi now. Mr. Saudi, what do you think about this? Having, let's say, what are some of the inputs at this point?
For me to become a leader is that you look at, I mean, I kind of agree with everyone that they need to have both what we call technical expertise and also leadership competency, right? So these two parts, when you combine, I think you'll have a very good you can have a very good leader in the organization. So let's say people need to come with they need to be very skillful, know what they are doing, and able to transfer that knowledge to others as well, right? So, and the person that has a very good leadership competency, meaning not all, when we say leadership competency, it is not only one one competency, but it is so many competency combined together. In terms of, it can be people management, execution work, execution planning, putting strategy in place, or whatever, right? So I think it is that's why from the beginning I said it is an artist. So you got to piece everything a little bit from here, a little bit from there, just to ensure that one task that you are going to deliver, I mean, result in a very best way that it can be. So I put it here. I mean, if I talk a bit up on the leadership character, right? If I happen to hire somebody in the leadership role, so I would assess their skill, the expertise in their skill, and secondly on their behavior. I think most of the time when I interview leadership role, let's say if I interview an GM, I would just see that whether that they do they okay if they fail. I mean, do they okay if they got to work under pressure? I mean, so they need to make sure that they're willing to fail, they're willing to lose, they can work under pressure, they have to be able to be led by others as well. So many times that the leader need to know how to be a good follower as well. So in one person, actually, if you are appointed in the leadership role, it is not always that you are the leader and you are leading the organization, but you have people behind you, below you, and you have people above you, and you have people beside you. So meaning that you are playing different roles. You are not playing only one role as appointed as the manager of something. Yeah.
That sounds like the sandwich thing that I think Mr. Iqbal talked about, right? So you have to kind of like manage these different layers of an organization, be able to effectively communicate. And I agree with leadership as an art, because it's not like you can expect the same result with two different people, right? Like you have to be able to distinguish the situation and then take your creativity to that point.
Can I add one thing, Chi? I think
absolutely, sorry.
I think the future trend, what we're going to be, right? See, now we are talking about the leadership, right? We probably need to think, because now we are in the combination of using Western style leadership and Eastern style leadership, right?
Right.
Another one. It's basically depends on your organization, at what organization that you are on, what kind of working environment that you are with. Some leadership try to implement Western leadership style with the Eastern countries. Somebody wants to implement Eastern leadership style into the Western, so things never be messed up. So somehow that's why I said it is not easy to hold yourself into leadership role. It is require lots of things, not only knowledge, not only skill, not only attitude, but many things, right? Many things together, to run an organization effectively.
I agree. I think one thing that we're bound to encounter as leaders is essentially if we're not ambitious enough and we don't even understand these opportunities and threats around us, so then we'll never take any action. But if we do take action, then we must be ready for failure, because that's a very likely possibility. But then what distinguishes, I think, a leader from a non-leader is your ability to get up again, and that resilience that Melissa was talking about to try out the new thing. And that ultimately, I think, is maybe the essence of what we're trying to reach. Okay, Mr. Saudi, excellent analysis. I think we touched upon a lot of points, right? This idea of resilience, this idea of creativity, this idea of being able to interpret a situation and arrive at a destination, and like taking all this experience and making some sense out of it, right? While at the same time remaining calm, collected, and being able to perform rational decisions. Okay, so that pretty much ends our third topic, and that's it for the questions. Yeah. So Adil, let's go to our next slide then. And I want to say thank you for all the contributions from the speakers and all the questions from our participants too. This is a very, I think it's a very abstract topic, leadership. And until you've experienced it yourself, most of maybe what we're saying just seems like kind of theory. But once you start actually getting a taste of leadership, you're like, oh my God, he was right. I didn't realize that that's where the main points were. So, okay, Furqan, this is the part where I need some leadership, actually. So I'll just ask, this is a new audience engagement?
Yes, of
fun
course.
thing that we're doing. So, okay, over to you, Furqan.
Yes, so for all the participants, as I mentioned earlier, there will be quiz for this BVE Talk 20, and this is very, very new. But where's the quiz? You might be wondering. So the operator, next slide, please. Yes, the quiz is actually located on the feedback form. So you need to do the feedback form, do the quiz, and then later you will get present if you pass certain of criteria of quality on your answer. So for the liaison officer team, yes, you already shared the link for the feedback form and also the quiz. So please look at it and also do all the feedback form, and there will be quiz slips on that. And yeah, the lucky 6 participants will be receiving the e-money or the present of IDR 50,000 rupiah. So
fantastic.
Fantastic, very much.
Exciting, so exciting. So thank you for, if you're in the audience and you've been with us so far, now's your time to get rich by 50,000 rupiah. To be honest, to be very, very transparent, we put in this idea because a lot of the previous eTalk audience who had left us a response suggested that we do something like this to make the talk more engaging. So we're able to actually deliver speakers. We're able to deliver answer your questions based on your feedback. So as always, give us feedback. We want to listen to our audience. Of course, that's part of being leadership, listening to, and walking the floor. So please give your feedback. If nothing else, just to kind of like tell us that Jing, like your bald head is too shiny, it kind of puts too much glint on the hair, or whatever. Get like a shirt that isn't so raggedy. Whatever feedback you want to give, I want to listen to it, because ultimately we want to improve this event and make it more inspirational and delightful. Okay, so let's bring us to the next slide then. Yeah, and let's see what we have. All right, so this pretty much concludes the eTalk 20. And I'll try to conclude in a way that kind of gives us a nugget of some information. Maybe I'll let the speakers actually give their final thoughts. Yeah. So let's try to condense it into one word. Okay. So let's go for one word of what you think essentially is leadership through a crisis. What do you think is the one idea that you want the audience to walk away with, that you want everyone else to walk away with? And I'll start with Imam. Imam, one word to summarize leadership in your point of view.
Yeah, I guess from my point of view, leadership is a continuous development. So it is really hard for us to crystallize at one moment and say, that is my leadership. It's really hard. So it will be just like a continuous development, probably until I die, for example. So that's
Growth
why.
mindset to the end. Okay, good,
Yeah,
good, good.
so that's why this is unique and need a real dedication and a willingness to always learn and grow. So I guess that's the most important. Yeah.
Okay, all right, and thank you. That comes from Mr. Imam with Fishery. Okay, let's go over to Brian. Brian, what say you? Oh. Oh, Mr. Brian, you're muted.
Okay, I think it's authenticity because everyone is different, and leading through crisis can only be done if you're staying true to yourself and you're being authentic to your team.
Definitely. Okay, authenticity from Mr. Brian. Okay, let's go to. Okay, oh yeah, that's so that's Mr. Brian from Facet. Let's go to Miss Melissa from DHL. What would be your one word?
Learning.
Learning. Okay.
Nobody can actually, nobody is born and nobody was born and automatically becomes a leader. It's a learning process. So for everybody out there who is wondering whether or not I could make it in the world, leadership is a process. It's a learning process.
Definitely. Okay. Excellent. Thank you, Miss Melissa. And I would agree. I would agree that leadership is probably the fastest way to learn as much as you want about all kinds of things that you never thought you could learn. Okay, great. Let's go to Mr. Iqbal.
Yeah. For me, leadership is self-awareness. It started with knowing about yourself, and it ended up with making people be the best version of themselves.
Wow. Okay. Mr. Iqbal, Bukit Vista, self-awareness. Okay. Be all you can be. And let's go next to Ms. Dio.
Okay, for me, leadership is compassion. As in, I think with all of the speakers that are already talking today, the way we do crisis is also how we also try to put ourselves in the employee shoes. So how we can do like a win-win solution. So compassion is what I think is leader that go through crisis. So yeah.
Excellent. Okay, thank you, Ms. Dio. And finally, this is Ms. Dio from Human Resources at Axel. Okay, finally, Mr. Saudi. Mr. Saudi with Intercontinental Hotel Group. What's your word for leadership?
Yeah, it is I think for me, leadership is the challenge seeker. You're going to seek the challenge to develop your skill. And one word that I like to say to the young audience is that, I mean, I know that you guys are sharp already, but you need to be shaped so that you become a leader.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, Mr. Saudi from Intercontinental Hotel Groups. Okay. Thank you. Thank you all for contributing. What I've been hearing throughout this past time, and thank you for the audience who stayed with us for this entire journey, is that leadership is a lot about understanding yourself. It's about understanding how you yourself work. It's also understanding about how other people work. It's about getting results through teams. It's about going through struggles to understand complexities and learning things that you never thought you would learn before. It's about understanding compassion, understanding essentially how different people are, finding the right role for them, giving them the right work, putting them in the right delegation, and then monitoring what they're doing, inspecting, giving them the recognition and reward that they deserve so that they can do their best, so that they can become also leaders as well. Leadership is abstract. It is not something you can necessarily learn just by being in school or reading from a book. You've got to go out and experience it. But there are fast ways to accelerate your progress by seeking mentorship, by getting into groups where you can support each other, because leadership ultimately can be lonely and it can be very hard to ascertain if what you're feeling is correct. So finding that support group, finding mentors, coming to the BPE talk, right? And exploring essentially ways of speaking about it so that your progress is assured. And leadership isn't going to go away. I think no matter what, this world will need leaders, and a career in leadership is essentially a good direction if you're ready for it, all right? And as we know from Brian, you can lead in many different ways. You can lead yourself, you can lead a team, you can lead a process, you can lead a project. There are many flavors of leadership, and it is a bit like an art, I think, that Mr. Saudi has mentioned. And it is a process. And Melissa said, you know, this takes time. This is something that we have to essentially take time to go through. And as a younger leader, Ms. Dio emphasizes the kind of understanding about the different aspects of leadership related to the self as well. Okay, great. And commitment from Mr. Imam. Commitment to essentially providing leadership in the service of others is something that ultimately enhances our ability to lead. Okay, thank you. Furqan, are there any more slides after this, or is this the last slide? This is it. Okay,
Yes.
so if you've reached this far, this is Talk 20. Yeah.
Yes,
And
yes. This is the last
staying
this
with us
last
this
slide
whole
for
time. Yes.
BPE Talk 20, but I would like to give an announcement or a heads up. So next
Oh,
slide,
yes.
please, operator. Yeah, so BPE Talk is not end yet for the 20 series. We will conduct the 21st by the new topic, which is very interesting if you are into the hospitality and also the AI industry. We would like to cover, can the human touch ever be replaced in the hospitality industry through AI? Okay, so that's actually the announcement that I have, and thank you so much.